Okay. The press and the Down Beach Current were notified of this meeting. A copy of the same was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Would you please take a second, turn off electronic equipment? We'll stand for the flag salute. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tom, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Becker. Here. Mr. Blumberg. Here. Ms. Talby.
Here. Lisa?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Best practices, please.
Good afternoon. Sorry about that. Okay, we're required by the state, as we have been for the last several years, to complete a best practices questionnaire or best practices inventory. It's comprised of 50 questions, and basically it's to see what the towns are doing, get municipalities thinking about what they can do better, and get everybody on board with this. And if you score below an 80%, you're at risk of losing a portion of your state aid. Every year we have managed to score above that and have received 100% of our aid. Basically, I printed up a summary for the discussion, and hopefully you've had a chance to review the questionnaire. There were 50 questions this year, 14 of which were new, and they're broken out as follows. General management, there's 11 questions. We had 6 yeses, 3 nos, and 2 not applicable. 11 in the area of finance and audit, and we scored yes in all 11. 5 for procurement, 4 yes answers and 1 not applicable. 7 for budget preparation and presentation. We had 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 not applicable. 5 in the area of health insurance, 4 yeses and 1 not applicable, and 11 regarding personnel, with 7 being yes and 4 no. So overall, the total, we had 37 yes responses, 8 no, and 5 not applicable. And that gave us an overall score of 84%, so we will be receiving 100% of our state aid. And just so you know, the state aid that we do receive is for this energy receipts tax, which is very highly debated among the towns because they all feel we should be receiving all of that anyway. And we received approximately $840,000 that's anticipated in our budget for that. As a result of the questionnaire, I have a few recommendations for consideration that I have discussed with Rich, and we could leave it for future discussion. But one of the items where there was a state comptroller's report regarding legal costs in municipalities. He did an audit and he came out with a best practice checklist, and I recommend that we do comply with several of the items on the checklist, but I recommend that we work towards more compliance with the checklist and reviewing that in further detail. I also recommend that we establish a finance committee to include Commissioner of Finance, myself, and the business administrator. Although it's communicated, to Commissioner Blumberg through the business administrator, myself, on several finance issues. I think it probably would be a good idea if we had met, a few times throughout the year to discuss formally, certain items such as, budget and other finance issues. 2 other considerations that I'm suggesting is the elimination of sick payouts in future collective bargaining agreements for new hires, and to also consider changing our workers' compensation policy in regards to employee compensation. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
Maureen?
No.
Brenda? No, I'm fine also.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for a good job.
You're welcome.
Why don't we go to department head reports? Ed, are you willing to lead off tonight? Okay,
If you have the time.
I have the time.
Okay. Everyone has a copy of the report. I will start with design projects. We submitted another copy of the 4086 Hazard Mitigation Grant Energy Allocation Initiative application to the state on the 28th. That has to do with our generators. Meanwhile, we have the generator design on hold until we're sure that money has been, we know it's approved, we just need to have the contract signed. If we expend money prior to that, it's not reimbursable. So as soon as that money, the papers are signed, we'll go back to design, finish that up. 2015 state aid application, I believe, is on the agenda. What we are looking to do is Winchester Avenue from Jerome to possibly Granville. We're trying to determine, I don't know if Joe talked to you about the water main on that street, determine whether we need to replace that or not. But we are looking at Winchester as a good application. It connects a county road. It also is a road that was previously done about 20 years ago with state aid funding. It also serves a school, so it meets a lot of the good criteria. So we figure we would start at Jerome and just work our way to Ventnor in phases. See, the 2014 road program is in design. There's a list of the roads that we're doing. As far as projects that are completed and under construction, our previous road program, the contractor has the punch list. He's about 95% complete. The biggest item is Beach Block of Essex. There's about 100 feet of curb and gutter that he needs to replace to correct a ponding problem. He's aware of that and will do it. Municipal building upgrades, that's the Union Avenue building here. Alaska is about 95% done. While they were under the building doing the valving, they found some broken lines from our roof drains, which contribute to the problem that we have under there. That's being repaired. So that we should have the moisture issue under control in this building for this heating season. Gladstone Avenue water tank, the cellular lease, the work is underway over there. The municipal building, Union Avenue direct install, which consists of all these lights, electrical improvements through the building for energy efficiency, and the two large gas-fired units that are on this roof. That's essentially done with the exception of some work that has to be subbed out to CM3, which are our control people. That work has to be completed, but it will be in time for the heating season. Same thing with Alaska's work. They have a little bit more work to do on the chimney, and then we'll be able to get the boilers up and running so that we're okay for the heating season. 2013 road program, that's the one that was designed, awarded. Pre-con was held. We're waiting the schedule from the contractor, but I anticipate middle of October they should be started. Well, number 10, the redevelopment. They're about 75% complete. We've also asked them to go over and give us a price to rehab, clean, maintain our discharge wells for our geothermal system at the Washington Avenue building. So as soon as I get that number, I'll bring it back to you, and we should get them to do that. As we can actually do it as part of this contract as a change. Frank and I are both, we don't know when the last time those wells were cleaned, and it's an issue of just some chemical addition, and then they have what's called a big swab, looks like a big Q-tip. And they go down, they clean the screen, and then it'll let the water flow in. Right now, the water's overflowing those wells. It's just groundwater that we pump out. We pump out with a set of wells, we go through heat exchangers, and then just discharge back into the same aquifer. And the Washington Avenue, there's a resolution on the agenda tonight authorizing us to go out to bid on the Washington Avenue repurposing. We're going out to bid next week on that. I met with a company that does furniture. They recycle furniture, office furniture, municipal building furniture, and I shared our needs with them and see what they come back with. I also met with Maggie Hampton, who was the designer who did all the surface treatments over at the building. She's involved, she's on our team now, and that's the last piece, that's the pretty stuff that's being done. And we still have an outstanding grant from the Atlantic County Improvement Authority of $30,470 to construct another accessible beach access at Frontenac Avenue. I'm waiting to hear if we generally try to do them 2 years at a time. It's more economical. So I'm waiting to hear if we have the 14 money yet. That's the 13 money. If we did not get the 14 money, then I would suggest I would give you a proposal authorized to go to bid on just the one for Frontenac Avenue, because we don't want to jeopardize any money, losing any money. And I believe that's it.
Thank you, Ed. Frank?
This weekend, we were busy with the Fun Fest by the Bay. It was a beautiful weekend. I believe it was very successful. We had no problems with Public Works. We've also been very busy down on the beach, removing all our summertime equipment, cleaning up the beach, especially up by the bulkheads. We've been going down and pulling all the weeds and cleaning up all the debris around there. We've also been very busy with our water and sewer department. There's a lot of new buildings going up. There's a lot of water lines that we had to put in the past few weeks. And some of the water lines are for fire suppression, so they're 4-inch lines. Today they had a very difficult job on Madison Avenue because the street was redone. There was an old water main there. There was an old sewer main. And it was a very difficult job, but they got it done. And we've been still working up in Marvin Gardens and the city properties, cleaning them up for the winter time, and we're very busy. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Chief DeVasso.
Fire department also had a good weekend of Fun Fest. No outstanding events, but we were there along with Public Works and police, and I think overall it was like Frank said, a successful weekend. Also, we're wrapping up on the beach patrol, Mayor. End of season equipment getting stored and cleaned and restored and ready for next season. So everything should be at a halt shortly. This week, or actually October 5th through October 11th, is Fire Prevention Week. And we actually started our circuit today at the Eugene Thai School. We'll be hitting all the schools, Jewish Community Center, Margate Community Church, Playgroups Plus, for displays, events, distribution of materials to all the kids in Margate. And also we're doing a senior citizens presentation at the Pavilion on October 10th. And just a note of trivia, the Fire Prevention Week is the same time every year because it coincides with the Great Chicago Fire that happened in 1871 on October 8th and 9th. It was a huge fire that killed 250 people, burned 17,000 buildings, and left 100,000 people homeless at that time. And it's coincided ever since then. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Lisa, you have anything else?
Just a few more items, thank you. Our open enrollment period has begun on October 1st and will run through the end of the month. Notice has been sent out to all the employees regarding this because now is the time if they have any changes to be made in regards to their health coverage, they need to do so during the open enrollment period for the plan year that will be effective January 1st. We have representative coming in on October 4th, and we'll be here from 9:30 until 1 to meet with any employees and address any of their questions regarding the plans. Our broker is still shopping the market for quotes. So far, they're due back in their office in another week, and they've received one declination. And we're really not anticipating any competitive quotes in regards to our health insurance in light of the claims experience that we received. The overall increase to our health insurance is 8.9%, and we currently have 123 active employees. In addition to that, we currently utilize Harleysville Life Insurance Company to provide a supplemental life insurance and accidental death and dismemberment policy to our employees, and Nationwide is taking over their book of business. Our broker has gone back and forth and spent a lot of time reviewing the policy to make sure that it mirrors our Harleysville policy. So it's replicating our Harleysville policy. There will be no change in coverage, no increase in cost. It will take place or be effective December 1st of this year, and they require that we submit all the required documents to them no later than November 1st. So we will need to put a resolution on to the agenda for our next meeting, and I will forward all of the information, to the clerk so that that can take place. In addition to the policy, they also offer in their coverage a travel assistance coverage to employees and an EAP, employee assistance, at no extra cost. And the last thing I want to just bring you up to date on is I've been working a lot this week on trying to get all the money we can from FEMA in regards to Hurricane Sandy. I can't believe it's almost 2 years already. Out of the 10 projects we currently have written, 5 of them we have received all of the funding we're entitled to, and they just need to be closed out, but there's a process involved with that. Also, one of the other projects that was for the stairs and street ends, it was originally written for $107,000, but after I went through and reviewed all our documentation, I submitted a request for reimbursement for $165,000. So we gathered almost another $60,000 there. Hopefully, we'll receive that. Also, in reviewing a project for our temporary facility, that's where we relocated to this building. Originally, the project was written for $83,000, but I compiled $257,000 additional expenses. So I have submitted a scope change, and once that is approved, I will submit a request for reimbursement. Also, still waiting to hear on the final number for City Hall. I spoke with the closeout specialist the other day, and she's looking into it for me, and she'll let me know. And in speaking with Rich earlier this meeting, I'm going to coordinate a meeting between the specialist and Ed, Rich, probably Frank, and a few other people, just so we could review what the current status of the projects are and what other money is out there and due to us and what we need to get that money. I'm going to work on preparing the third quarter finance status report, and as soon as I have our accounts reconciled for September, I will submit that to you, hopefully by the end of next week. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Lisa. Chief Wilson.
I have a question.
To dovetail into Frank and Tony, Fun Fest was a great success for the police.
Chief, could you, hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Abbott has a question.
You know, and I know how hard you've been working, especially on this Sandy program. Could you estimate or tell us how much money have we gotten from the state, and how much money do we anticipate? I know you can only estimate.
Yeah, no, I actually meant to report on that, I apologize. To date, from FEMA, we have received $2,222,000, and from the Joint Insurance Fund, we have received approximately $630,000. Our flood insurance proceeds were $301,000, so year-to-date, we have received $3,153,000 approximately. But we're anticipating from FEMA, hopefully, to receive at least another $1 million from that, and contingent upon that final approval for our City Hall project.
The City Hall project, just the City Hall project, the number that the FEMA specialist that did the estimate sent to me, and I don't have the exact number, but it was over $2 million that we were eligible for, provided we spend that much. So what they did was they took what it would cost to put it back the way it was, the cost of what we've already done remediation-wise, and the cost of all the codes and standard upgrades that we have to do. But the number came up, it was well over, when I say well over, $2.2 million was the number.
So you're looking at least $5 million, and does that include state grant monies we've received since Sandy for improvements and upgrades, like the bulkhead monies, or that's additional money?
That's different, yeah.
That's something else.
The 2.3 is purely Washington Avenue, or 2.2 million is purely Washington. Again, if we don't spend that much, they won't give us that much, but they have allocated, the numbers that they came up with based on the unit cost for all these various items was that 2 million, 2.1, somewhere in there. And Lisa, did you get a copy of that or not? Did you check your email?
I still have to check.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Scott. Chief, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Just to dovetail into Frank and Tony, it was a successful Fun Fest for the police department too. To my knowledge, we had no calls requiring police intervention, which is a great thing. The drug take back, which we did a little different this year, on Saturday we had boxes down at the Fun Fest at the police table, and we collected two by 2 by 3 boxes filled with prescription medication. So that was a big turnout. Another happy note, the PBA for those that aren't aware, the PBA had a dunk tank to raise money for breast cancer awareness via Gilda's Club, and they actually raised $3,500 in cash over the 2 days. So I'm really proud of the guys that did that, and they're going to put another $1,000 to it, so they're sending a check to Gilda's Club for $4,500.
Chief, that was my favorite part of Fun Fest, and you guys were all sports to be dunked, and so thank you for that.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. That's it.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Deeney.
Kind of picking up on what all that finance information, which is mostly very positive. There is a bond ordinance on the agenda. Did you speak of it?
I did not.
There is a bond ordinance on the agenda to supplement the money that's already been appropriated for the Washington Avenue facility. You just heard the engineer talk about the process that we've kind of been waiting for, and that is for FEMA to review all the plans that have been submitted to them on several occasions, and for them to calculate the codes and standards portion of it, plus the part that was just damaged in and of itself. And so, in other words, we're going to get reimbursed for the part that was damaged, the portions that were damaged, but also the portions that we will be bringing up, spending more money on than just replacement, because we have to bring things up to modern day codes and standards, and then we'll get money from FEMA for that. As a result of all of that and all of those requirements to bring it up to those new standards, the cost of the project has gone up. That's why the supplemental bond ordinance is on the agenda. But the expectation is, and of course we won't know until we actually take the bids, which you will also have a resolution to authorize us to go out to bid. When we take the bids, we'll know what the project cost is expected to be, and we'll be able to calculate more precisely how much money we'll get back from FEMA. But ultimately, it's 90% of the eligible costs that we will get from FEMA. If we take a conservative number of 80% of the total project is eligible, and 90% of 80% is 72%. So I'm looking to say to you with confidence, based upon our internal discussions, that whatever the bids come in, when we go to make the recommendation award, we'll get at least 75% of that total amount back, which represents 90% of the eligible costs. That's why that bond ordinance is on the agenda. It in of itself will not cost the taxpayers any additional money. We have enough money for our portion already appropriated. We just have to appropriate the additional portion of which we will get back. That's why it's all reimbursement. So we have to put the money up front and then we get reimbursed. So technically, we are creating debt, but as soon as we get it reimbursed, it's paid. That debt is paid for. We're keeping track of it. We're keeping track of our commitment to new debt of being no more than $3.5 million, and that assurance is still in place. So when we want to make sure that when we're asking you to vote, you will not be required to commit any new net debt. Okay, one other report. For the last two meetings and now the third, I've reported on where we stand with respect to the Beachfield project, and this report says of this morning. And I'm going to read it like I have before. It's in a continuous form. I've made copies. In other words, whatever I said the last two meetings, this is in addition to that. And when I put my written report out on the table, you'll have all three meetings in one document. I'm going to read it directly. As noted previously, the Army Corps of Engineers has put the Absecon Island Protection Project out to bid, with bids to be opened on October 21st, 2014. Despite that fact, it does not appear that the project commencement will occur within the next 30 days. On September 22nd, 2014, the mayor received correspondence from Commissioner Martin of the Department of Environmental Protection, again requesting that the city voluntarily grant easements where required for the project. That letter, by the way, was also sent to other property owners in Margate, from what we understand. That letter also stated that in the absence of voluntarily granted easements, the state would begin the statutorily required condemnation process, which it would initiate by contacting the city through its appraiser within the next 30 to 60 days. Following that initial contact, the city and appraiser would arrange mutually convenient times for inspection and appraisal of affected lands. Sometime after, the state would issue a written offer stating a specific amount of compensation available for the lands to be condemned. After this written offer is received by the state and city are required to negotiate for 14 days before the state can commence formal condemnation proceedings. Therefore, it appears as though it will be a minimum of 45 days before the negotiation process is completed. Now, those words that I just read are taken from the letter that we received, which has been our understanding all along of the process, but it was repeated in the letter from the state, from Commissioner Martin to the city. On September 22nd, 2014, we received a final report from our consultant engineer. In that report, our engineer confirmed the following. A, the study apparently did not account for Margate's pre-existing bulkhead system in its analysis. B, the study failed to consider the possibility of widening and heightening the beach berm with the same amount of sand instead of using that sand to construct dunes. C, the study did not appear to account for potential street end drainage consequences. And D, the study has underestimated ongoing operations and maintenance costs associated with the project that would be the responsibility of Margate. Meetings with the county and state level officials began this morning. During those meetings, we have begun the process of presenting the findings from our engineer in an effort to gain consideration of alternatives to the project. These meetings will continue over the next several weeks. And as noted previously, we are prepared to meet immediately, if necessary, to consider strategies to respond to any unanticipated or earlier than anticipated actions by the state. Any questions from the commission?
Brenda? Maureen?
As I have the last two times, I'll make a copy of this available to anybody at this table who wants it, plus there'll be extra copies after this meeting, between the two meetings, I'll place up on the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Scott?
A couple things, Mayor and Commissioners. As you know, recently we saw this week there was a jury award against the City of Margate. That was a JIF matter. Our JIF attorneys did take that to trial. There was an award for $100,000. The individual was seriously injured. She tripped or fell as a result of, I believe it was a drainage grate failure. And it's interesting, we know as we talk about this $4 or $5 or $6 million that we've been generating, it all relates, the condition of our infrastructure, the condition of our streets, our curbs, and the potential liability if we don't stay on top of it. Well, as you can see, even tonight there, we have this other project, I believe it's for Winchester Avenue, right? And again, it's improvement of infrastructure, so we don't have these type of lawsuits. But every once in a while, an injury will occur. There was an injury here, and as you're aware, the JIF will cover most of the costs of that, as they did with the defense. But I don't think I could just sit here and ignore it. It was in the paper today. I think you're aware of it. But if you have any further questions, it's fine. Richard and I have also discussed possibly having either the trial attorney or somebody else come in, maybe review our procedure, maybe see if there's something we could possibly do better, or maybe to improve the city's position on future claims. And I guess you saw the article about the boardwalk. I guess we're fortunate we don't have a boardwalk at least, but we do have streets. And every once in a while, we are going to get sued as a municipality. You also see on our agenda for tonight, we've asked for an executive session with regard to existing litigation. And you can talk about that now if you want, but I've asked that it go into a closed executive session.
I think it's a good idea.
And I have nothing else at this point.
Thank you, Scott. Tom?
I just have one thing. The annual excess water and sewer bills are all read. Frank's guys got all the reading. Fred did all the input, and they'll be mailed out next week, hopefully at the end of next week, with a due date November the 5th. That's all I have.
Thank you. Roger?
Mayor, we're just very busy in the zoning department. I was working on 6 new houses this week and 3 house raisings. There's going to be a lot of activity. There were a lot of demolitions already since September 15th and several more happening. I want to thank Fred very much for preparing these kind of ID badges for all the planning board members. We have a very conscientious planning board, and every member goes out and looks at every case. We have a half a dozen every month, and goes onto people's properties to determine what they're going to do at the meeting. And these badges help them feel more comfortable as they travel around.
Thank you, Fred, and Chief Wolfson for helping with that. That's all.
Can I make a quick comment on the badges? Thank you. And Fred, thank you for putting my birth date on the back, not in the front like you did for Roger.
Jim?
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen?
Now, I just want to let you know that they're going to start up juvenile conference hearings again. They're starting tomorrow. And they called again to confirm everything. They wanted to thank Commissioner Talby. Since we had relocated to Longport, it's been hard for them to have the hearings in Longport, so they're back here. They're going to be here the first Tuesday of the month. They're only going to do it for October and December, then they'll give us a schedule for January, but they're very appreciative to the city for allowing them to use the facility. So Kathleen's on board. She's worked with the people before, so everything should be okay. The only thing they asked is that I tell the police chief, which I had emailed him, sometimes parents tend to get out of hand a little bit, so they just want to be able to, if they call 911 or they call, the police number, they'll know, the PD will know why somebody's in the city hall after hours. So I did email Chief.
Actually, I think in the past, Mo, we've actually had an officer sign there.
Okay.
So
I did email you and today, so if you want to, they'll know for Tuesday the due dates
I'll
for
take care
this year.
of it.
Okay, great. And that's it. I mean, we're just wrapping up from the summer.
Thank you, Maureen. Rhodey?
Yeah, Chief, you actually did, because I sat on that board for many years, so it was good to have, it did help. No, other than that, good.
Fred?
Actually, we should have somebody here to stand guard so nobody can get in and out of the offices here. It's a little different than the other city hall. These offices are pretty accessible.
No, we addressed that. They're just going to be in here, and that's going to be, the gate will be locked, and they're only going to be in here, and they're going to exit out through these doors here. Yes, and I explained that to the contact person, the head of the juvenile conferencing hearing. So there's a gate that Kathleen's going to put up.
Yeah.
So they'll only be in here.
Do we have, their office is still open, and is there a lock for the gate?
I'd have to check with Kathleen, because she just closes it up.
Can you make sure somebody stands by the gate? So
that's why we just decided to have
nobody
it here,
gets
so they're not
into the
roaming.
other offices.
So Maureen, they're not going to be able to come in through the front door.
They're going to come in through the
Come in
front.
this way.
And still get out this way,
Yeah.
go to the bathroom or something.
They can go that way to the bathroom, and then they're going to exit out through these, they can exit right out through these two doors, but the chief can let the PD know, and then they'll just wait out in the hallway area,
What?
No?
Just to follow up on what Ed was saying about the direct install package, I'm meeting with Broadleys tomorrow to go over all the changes that they made, if it's okay with you, and I'll check off everything that they've done, because I think the extra piece from CM3 doesn't really fall in line with the direct install. So I think I want to get those guys finished, so I'll meet with them tomorrow and just go through the checklist with them, and we'll get them completed. I was with them last night while they were doing some more work in here. And one other thing, the road program, if we could remember 610 Fredericksburg Avenue, please. The road with the speed bumps. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Who we got? Marty?
Nope, nothing to report.
Brenda?
Just something quick. I just want to compliment Anna Maria Blessia and Ed Berger for another great Fun Fest. On a side note, a while back, all three of us got a letter from the concerned citizens with some suggestions for recreational activity, and one of those suggestions was a miniature golf course. And ironically, some of my friends who are parents have also brought this suggestion to me, and last night at a function, some other parents brought this to me as a suggestion, and I talked to Rich about it, and he would be happy to look into the feasibility of the project with the commission's okay. So I'd like to ask him to look into the feasibility, if it's okay with
I'm good. Maureen?
you.
No problem with that.
And that's all.
Cool. I have one thing. At the last meeting, a lady was here from Monmouth Avenue asking for a street light. And I got the information, and she said there's an existing pole, am I correct? Did she not?
Mayor, if I may, I looked at that. There's 2 lights on that block already, because it's the block past me. There's 2 lights, and I think the woman's issue is that their driveway that goes between the 2 lights, between the 2 buildings, because they're mirror images of each other. They're like one faces Monmouth and one is behind it. So I was going to wait and go speak to her when she was down and say, I think it would behoove them to basically put in some kind of spotlight on their property.
Okay, good. The cost to the city, Dave, is $750 if there is a pole, plus whatever.
There is. I know Frank looked at it, and I looked at it, and there's 2. We survey the rest of the streets, every street has like 2 lights on it, so that's already got 2 existing lights. It's just that the driveway access is a little dark.
When you contact her, would you tell her that, we did look into that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's all I have. At this point, we'll open for public comment for anything that was 3 minutes, for anything that was discussed here today.
Sewell, 22 West Drive. Following up on the remarks of Lisa, best practices, can we assume that it takes in shared services?
Yes.
And did they focus in on the lack of shared services by the school board and the school district, where there's been an adamant refusal to share any services or to consolidate? And we're running a budget of $13 million each and every year for a handful of children. Can we perhaps review that issue more closely going forward to see where shared services could be had and should be had in order to bring this $13 million down to a more respectable level? We're spending a staggering amount of money per pupil per year with very, very poor results. 25% of the graduating 8th grade could not perform proficient math. This has severe ramifications when they take their SATs to try to get into college, and they can't get into a college. Or if they get into a college, they're required to do 5 years instead of 4 years, a year of remedial math and English. So I would stress that we look into that more seriously going forward. Following up on Mr. Deeney's remark about the Beachville project, there was a question put forth by Sharon Simon concerning the November referendum and the input by Summer residents and their ability to weigh in and to vote. I informed Sharon that the Summer residents always have the option of registering to vote in Margate if they so chose to do so. However, there would be another avenue, particularly if it's a non-binding referendum, to have the American Arbitration Association send out ballots to the Summer residents so they could weigh in on a non-binding aspect. I think that's very important because many of the beachfront, beach block people are paying an inordinate amount of taxes, far disproportionate to the rest of the Margate residents. And I think this is imperative that they have some voice, even if it's simply through the American Arbitration Association. They will run a vote at a fairly modest cost. And I think we'd have that input, which I think is important. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make a motion that we close public comment.
I'll second that.
Mr. Becker? Yes. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. We will reconvene at 5 o'clock.